interactive. And so the idea is to share experience and ideas, but also to be able to ask questions of each other. So we're going to kind of focus on healthy country planning. So that's the adaptation of the conservation standards for Indigenous communities and First Nations peoples. So this is, the important things about that is that, it's led by elders and community leaders and is done on country. And so this means often, you'll drive out on country in the bush and be, doing the workshopping out there. And it means that, the kind of techniques and the equipment and the tools that you might use would be a bit different to if you were doing a planning process, sitting, in your office with your colleagues. And so we thought this would be a good opportunity to share that amongst all of us, but we've also got 3 very experienced facilitators who are going to lead the discussion. So we've got Pip Walsh, who has was instrumental in setting up CCNet in Australia, and now it's expanded, and has a lot of experience working all over Australia, Aotearoa, and within Southeast Asia. In this, we've and works for Community Solutions. Got Stuart Cowell, who works is Managing Director for Conservation Management and has experience from all over the world, based in Hobart, and Nat Holland, who has been a long time involved in CCNet as well as Stuart, and is works for the TNC currently. So I'm actually going to hand over to Stuart to kind of do a little bit of a intro to his experience.
Thanks, Saris, and hi everybody. Nice to see a whole bunch of folks here. Saris, just checking in. So you'll do the sort of demo on the breakouts and stuff after I've had a bit of a natter.
Yes, that's right.
So look, Saris just asked me to give a couple of thoughts, just as thought starters really for the topic today. And I haven't done any PowerPoint today, so we're all getting to enjoy having some of that. Saris has said I've strictly got 3 minutes, of which I've now used 1, so that's become 2, which is problematic. Given I've got about 25 or 30 slides to get through, so strap yourselves in. So I'm just going to pop up onto the screen. It's customary welcome to Zoom. I'm just going to pop something up on the screen. So I'm just going to draw a few thoughts from working on 3 different projects, mostly from the Spinifex Healthy Country Plan down in the southeast there. Now, just checking everyone can see that screen. Okay, yep. And they really are. There's a range of things which I hope we'll get into in the session, in the breakout sessions. But these are just a couple of things which are probably a bit self-evident. I've probably talked to a lot of people about these anyway. But just sort of, as Sarah said, thinking about on country and healthy country planning and stuff, and compared to our normal stuff. But first thing I'd say is, you're going to need different workshop tools. So we often think about workshop tools as being, sticky notes and things like that. Well, if we're doing, if the opportunity presents and we're doing healthy country planning, we also need a bigger range of tools around that to help the workshop to function, because you're typically often going out on country and so on. So it's swags and cooking gear and vehicles and things like that. So planning the workshop, planning your healthy country is a process is as much about that as it is about all those other things. Which leads to not all surfaces are inside, and not all surfaces are that you work on. We often work on walls and things like that, but sometimes walls can be troop carriers. I'm sure a lot of you have used them for that. I'm not sure that it's authorised use by Toyota, but fruit carriers particularly work excellently well as a sort of mobile workshop space, but so do doors. And also, to be honest, although I'm not a flat earther, but many parts of the world are flat and you can put stuff on it. And so working on the ground is a really super common part of doing healthy country planning sessions out on country, you know, under trees and just finding shade and, you know, putting down mats and spending time sitting around and talking. Often going out is a bit of a multi-day exercise, and, you know, lots of time around meals and other things. Having undirected conversation is like super useful and super important. Time to just talk about stuff, time for people to be together, to process things that are being talked about during the day, think about things to talk about tomorrow. Lots of undirected time can have enormous flow on and huge benefits for the more kind of structured bits that, as a facilitator, you might feel the need to insert into the days. As well as, you know, talking about topics, going to see things and doing things as you're going to see them is incredibly useful. Yeah, and there's no getting around it. Sometimes a lot of the things that we do, healthy country planning and so on, can feel a bit abstract. And so, you know, making sure you spend time moving from place to place and making the topics much more concrete and spending time to talk about those topics, you know, is incredibly powerful, irrespective of what part of the process you're in. And it allows different topics to emerge. It shifts the relationship to the people whose country it is as being the owners of the process rather than yourself, and that's incredibly powerful. Final thing, Sarah, promise. Sometimes sticky notes just aren't available in local community stores. Despite good planning, you may have forgotten to take them. Or practical. I don't know about many of you, but I find that sticky notes don't stick above 40 degrees and 90% humidity, or when covered in sand, or, you know, if used by the local community kids to make mosaics or things like that. So being able to grab things that might be useful from around you, you know, fruits and nuts, infamous, you know, pasta planning methodology in the middle, or things like library cards, which can float around and be used. Think about things like mechanical fixing rather than sticky note fixing. They're just a few sort of, it's more about, you know, how do I work in the space I'm in? How do I adapt the steps that I need to take to fit that? And how do I work in with what people want to do and look at and talk about and make the most of the time together and capture the information as best I can. That's that. Thanks very much. Something to start our thoughts.
Thanks, Stuart. So we will now, with that kind of information, maybe it's bringing some questions, or you know, you're remembering maybe a time when you've done some facilitation in the field. And so we're going to split into 3 groups, and then just have a bit of a discussion, share some tips, ask questions, and we're going to use Miro to do that. I'll get Leah to put the Miro board in the chat, but what I'm going to do is, or the link to the Miro board, is just share my screen so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, is that okay? Everyone can see that?
Yep.
Increase this a bit so you can actually see what I'm doing. So you'll just need to, so there's 3 boards in here. For those of you who are not familiar with Miro, you set up one. And so Pip's group 1, Stuart is group 2, and then Nat is group 3. So you'll need to go to the board with your facilitator. And then you can see we'll use sticky notes because these ones aren't going to blow away or not stick. So you can click on there and, you know, there's a range of colours. So you just take it and just, you know, you drag it across. And then you can then just write text in. So I'm suggesting that we use green for the tips or, you know, tools and things that you might do. So I'm just gonna, you can just type straight in there. So I often have, I've a few times had lots of children turn up and, you know, kind of unexpectedly. And so I always just make sure that I've got like spare paper and pencils or felt tips or something. You call them something else, texters or something, so that they can be occupied and just think about getting them to draw targets. So that's my kind of tip. So you just write in there, and then you can, if you need to enlarge, you can just drag to make the sticky note a bit larger, and you can move it quite easily around the board as well if you need to. So the idea would be to put tips or your questions, and you'll have about 5 minutes to do that, and then have a discussion, and we'll develop a set of tips from each board. We'll spend about 25 minutes in the breakout room and then come back to and each group can share their kind of key tips or learnings. I think so. Yeah, let's jump in and have a look at what you've what are the kind of key tips and learnings that you've shared. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen of the Miro board, and Pip will, we'll just go group 1, 2, 3. So see that all right? I'm just
Yep. And just for people, I mean, you'll still have access to these Miro boards later if we don't get back to them. Yep. I think we had some really great questions about things, which had people thinking about things, but some sort of clear practical tips. One of my favourite ones was we're thinking about lots of gaffer tape as a good tool, but the reminder that don't take it in your checked luggage, in your carry-on luggage, because they will take it away from you. So things from that sort of really practical things, but also through to sort of pre-preparing perhaps some templates on butcher's paper so people don't have to use sticky notes, and perhaps getting people, particularly if it's a new group, to think about a logo, how they want to represent pictorially what they're doing, as a way of just getting them really thinking about what's important in a different way, rather than saying, please break it down. So I might just leave that there because we don't have a lot of time now, do we? Unless there's anything else anybody from my group would like to highlight that really stuck out to them.
Thanks, Pip. We'll move on to the next group. So I think this is Stuart's, and then we can, we'll have a little bit of time hopefully at the end for, any other questions in the group.
Thanks, Cyrus, and thanks everyone in the team. And we didn't quite get through all the questions, but we got some good and some useful tips and conversation. We end up focusing quite a bit on communication theme topics. just around, so you haven't got PowerPoint and materials, what are you going to use? You thought about just asking yourself, well, why do you want those things anyway? We think it's a really important question. Think about purpose. Are you actually trying to train people in the detailed underpinnings of healthy country planning, or do you just want people to participate in a process? So really thinking through that, I thought that was a really useful discussion. Sophie did point out, which I thought was really insightful, but you do need material to keep yourself on track. So thinking about what you need versus what the participants need, is also really important. And there are some guides we've done on for facilitators as opposed to for community members. But that, working in those in remote communities, visual approach is an incredibly important approach, and going to places to see things will elicit a lot of discussion about things that you can see, but also things that you can't, and things that you might not think are important. So definitely doing that, using open-ended inquiry to plan your process rather than predetermined inquiry. We're doing targets. That I don't think I've ever done a healthy country trip where that has resulted in a conversation about targets. So using open-ended inquiry is very important. There's some really good tips there from Sophie, just about things to be aware of, translations, short sessions and field visits, making sure you can do follow-up, which is really critical. Follow-up is absolutely essential. Great tip from Michael, creating space for feedback from the start. So ensuring there is feedback, but creating that space and expectation from the get-go, so that there are multiple ways people can feedback, not just here's a report, send me your comments. And I just added this final comment here: be prepared for life to be woven into your session. And that was on the back of a comment here about somebody taking a nap and snoring while you were having a discussion. I've lost count the number of times that people have done that, or dogs have run through, or kids have been screaming, or all sorts of stuff. It's part of the tapestry of the thing that you're doing. You're in somebody else, in a community's life. So learning to work with that life happening is really, really important, and I think helps to make the process actually more entrenched and embedded, rather than creating a separateness of this thing from life. That's really important. Anyway, there you go. I probably haven't covered off what we covered well enough, but that was some thoughts. Team, any rebuttals?
I don't have a rebuttal, but just it's that feedback thing is a really good thing to think about, and other ways to be able to give feedback, not just written reports.
Yeah.
Like that tip.
Feedback's critical. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, group 2. We'll move on to group 3, which was group working with Nat.
Awesome. And again, a great variety of tips in there, from the very practical, as has already been covered, for being prepared for dogs, through to the kind of more conceptual around, being prepared to explain things in culturally appropriate ways, or ways in terms that people will understand. We had some good conversations around the practicalities of organising and logistics from a distance, and particular the value of having a local contact, someone who knows how to go about organising things locally if you're trying to manage it from afar. We had, again, some conversations around language and the best ways of managing that, and people's experiences around how to facilitate if discussions are happening in language or that type of thing, and being prepared for that. It looks like there's some overlap with some of the other groups. The conversation around how long will things take, and should we anticipate they're going to take longer? if doing things on country compared to things that would be done in a, more traditional workshop format. So some really good feedback and tips there from the group. So anything the group would like to add or expand on? Nope. Okay, thank you, Cyrus.
I was just thinking, just remain calm. It's not necessarily you that's the highest priority, and you should just go with the flow and remain calm.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Belinda. That's true. It's, as Stuart said, life happens, and sometimes you might have to actually put the workshop on hold and let whatever needs to happen take place. Well, thanks everyone. That's really good. As Pip said, these boards will, you still have access after this session to be able to, go back in and get tips. And it's also something that as the Conservation Coaches Network, if you have questions or even tips, the idea is to share this with others. So if you're not already part of the listserv community, please do get in touch. You probably would have come through with an email from us, so or forwarded from one of your colleagues. So do reach out if you're planning something or need help. And actually we would really encourage you, so the listservs one, we've also got a LinkedIn page as well. We'd really like to encourage people to follow us on that, and that's another space to also share things that are relevant to our community of practice. So did anyone have any other questions that maybe came up through that discussion and the report back from the different groups? Was there anything else people wanted to ask? Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much to Pip, Stuart and Nat for facilitating these groups, and to all of you for coming along to this today. I did just want to also say, so our next webinar, which is on the 27th of July, or it'll probably be a bit more of a presentation. We haven't actually decided the topic yet. So if any of you do have topics that you'd really like to know more about, or if you think you've got something that you'd like to share with the community, so that's actually to present and then have a Q&A afterwards, or actually something like this, which maybe is more of a facilitated discussion. It'd be great if you've got that now, if you can put that in the chat, would be brilliant. Otherwise, if you can email like either the listserv or one of the coordinating committees, you should have the website. I don't know, Leah, whether you've got the website handy or can put like our email addresses so that people can go to that for more information about the committee and CCNet here as well.
That's the link to this webinar, but that you can navigate to the rest of the website from there. Yep.
I don't know whether you've got the LinkedIn page up and we'll be able to share that link as well.
Oh, now you're pushing it, Cyrus.
Should have thought of that one.
Just revisiting, I mean, Cyrus and Leah are maybe underselling that the whole purpose of this community of practice is to help each other. So there's no question that's too silly. And there's a whole bunch of people, I think we saw in each of our groups that, there's lots of people with different experiences, and we really encourage you to keep coming along and keep being part of this community of practice. So it's lovely to see those of you who we're seeing for the first time on one of these webinars.
Yeah, it really is. And before you go, here's the LinkedIn link. How's that?
Yeah, so also, you know, colleagues or others that you know who you think would benefit and aren't currently, you know, networked in, please encourage them to join or to come along to one of our webinars. We also do have a coach training coming up in August. So if you're interested in that, also get in touch as well. We will advertise that through the CCNet and probably on NRM jobs as well, depending on, well, we've had some people already register interest for that. So we will be in touch with more details soon to those of you who have registered. So that one is the advanced course where you'd really, and Pip will be leading that to, actually, you know, really practice your facilitation skills and a range of tips and things for that as well. So you need to have done the basic course and have been using conservation standards and or healthy country planning before doing that, to have a bit of experience using them first.
And I guess what we'd say, we've sort of found over the years, if you think you're going to lead an open standards process rather than coaching people, maybe think about some other things, because the coaching ones really, if you're going to have space, I guess the intention and space to actually go and coach teams. So it's not so much our team captain's course as as our team coach course. Because occasionally we get people who just want to get better at their standards, and you go, we might be able to find some other ways of helping you with that, if that's what you'd like. But the coaching one's very much about coaching. But we always love new coaches.
Thanks, Pip. Okay, well, so that brings us to the end of this one. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. It's great to see, you know, get some new faces as well as familiar faces. And so I hope to see you at the next one.
Thanks, Iris.
Okay, have a good
Thank
afternoon,
you.
everyone.
Good to see you all.
Okay, good to see you.
Bye.
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 Stop the recording.
And I assume I'll see you this afternoon, Matt.